So, why is aged care experiencing such a severe workforce shortage in Australia?
I think it's such a complex question, Eloise. This has been an ongoing problem, the shortage in the workforce in the aged care sector. And the Royal Commission inquiry into this has uncovered that there are so many reasons behind it. And mostly it's because there are working conditions that are not as attractive as some of the other areas, so there's very low retention, as well as other issues. Now, the Australian Aged Care Labour Agreement actually looks at addressing some of this by bringing in overseas trained, skilled aged care workers to Australia. So this is exactly what we are trying to do. We are creating a funnel to bring talented, skilled and committed aged care workers from overseas to the Australian aged care sector.
And how can skilled migration help address this crisis?
Well, skilled migration is really a key solution to this problem, because we know we've got this growing gap in the aged care sector, and by 2030 and beyond, this situation is only predicted to become worse. Now, with the capability of bringing overseas employees to Australia through the Aged Care Labour Agreement, we will be able to really positively address this problem.
So what are the key visa pathways available for aged care workers?
Well, the primary pathway is the 482 Aged Care Labour Agreement stream. Now, this is a temporary work visa option that candidates can actually access, employers and employees can access. But the good thing is, after being on the 482 visa, upon completing certain eligibility criteria, candidates can then transition to the 186 visa pathway, which is a permanent residence option. There are a few other regional options that are also available to candidates who choose to work in the industry. So it is a great pathway to migrate to Australia. If someone's looking at options, this is a great opportunity, a great pathway.
And are there any challenges specific to placing aged care workers from overseas?
There are some challenges. There are some cultural gaps that needs to be addressed. Housing and accommodation, for example, making sure that the candidates who come here are able to transition comfortably to the Australian workforce. Now, having said that, we have put together a very comprehensive training plan that looks at minimizing these challenges. Our staffs coming through our nurses and aged care workers coming through this program actually not just get certified as to their skills, but they also have access to other support services. So they will get a lot of support from overseas before they come here, and they will be ready to hit the ground in terms of adjusting to some of these challenges.
Wow, that's really excellent. So, what advice would you give to international aged care workers who are looking to work in Australia?
I think it's important, first of all, when they choose their training pathway, to pick the right training for this program. For instance, we have signed a joint venture agreement with IIHS in Sri Lanka. IIHS is a highly reputed international healthcare training organization, and they have now put together a training program that is equivalent to the Australian Certificate 3, 4 and Diploma in Aged Care. So we know that the candidates who actually complete this program are not just completing a certification in aged care, but they're actually getting the qualification that is exactly what is required in Australia. Now, in addition to that, we've got some other services that are in place so that these candidates who get trained have access to other opportunities for further training and upskilling. English language training is also available, and also settlement help is also available. So having all these key services all integrated into that program is really helpful. So I think, like I said before, it's important to pick the right training program when you're looking at accessing this pathway.
So what is it about the 482 visa that makes it so attractive to both employers and potential workers?
Well, for employers, there are some concessions that are available. So because of this pathway, they are actually given a concession on the wages that they have to pay.
Right.
So they get a concession on the temporary skilled migration income threshold. Now from the candidate's point of view, they get several concessions. English language concession. So there is a reduction in the English language requirement from the general 482 pathway when it comes to the Aged Care Labour Agreement stream. Skill concessions are available. Work experience concessions are available. And most importantly, there is a transition pathway that is available to move from 482 to 186 permanent entry visa down the track.
I'm sure you see plenty of visas. So what are the most common mistakes that sponsors and the applicants can make on these 482 visas themselves?
Well, it's difficult to generalize, but we do come across refusals quite frequently. And generally, the applications are refused for reasons that could have been avoided if more attention had been paid. So although it's difficult to generalize, I think what is important is keeping abreast of changes that are happening. Immigration law is a very complex and dynamic area of law. Regulations are constantly updated, so it's really important that you are up to date with those changes and you don't overlook or ignore that criteria that is relevant to an application. It's important that you cover all of the criteria that is relevant to an application, and that is where our services can be helpful as lawyers, migration agents. I think we all play a huge role in making sure that applications that go to the department are meeting those requirements and are decision ready, so that there is efficiency in the process.
So how important is the nomination process and what should employers know about it?
There are three stages of an application. You get a sponsorship, a nomination and a visa, generally with the 482 visas, for example. I call the nomination the filling. It's like the substantial part of the application. It's really important. Where we see the most amount of refusals are in the nomination. And there is this particular criteria which is called the genuine position criteria, and often this is where the pitfalls are. So it's really important that when we present an application, we don't assume that the department understands what this application is about, but the onus is on the applicant, the onus is on the employer in this case to really prove it to the department, to really put their case forward, to state and show why this position is genuinely needed within the organization. So I think nomination is really, really key in this entire process.
How do you help both employers and workers maximize the potential success of their 482 visa application journey?
Well, interestingly, we know that an employee-employee relationship have certain elements of conflict of interest. So suddenly I have to represent both sides. So first of all, I've got to have their consent and then look at the situation from two different angles. So I have to look at what the employer's needs are in bringing this candidate or bringing this employee to their organization and justify that process, as well as from an employee's point of view, make sure that they understand what their obligations are. There are quite onerous, for instance, visa conditions that go with the 482 visa, for example. So I have to make sure that they understand what they're actually getting themselves into. Make sure that not just that they are fulfilling the criteria for this visa, but actually understand what's involved in the process and make sure that their journey thereon is a smooth one. So there is consideration of both sides of those interests in this process. You would hire me, wouldn't you?
If I could, I would. Yeah, definitely. You're very approachable, friendly, and you're very, very knowledgeable. That's my testimonial on camera.
Oh, you better. That's actually really good at that.
Well, it's true.
Thank you.
It's true. So what do you think are the key things Australian employers should know before hiring talent from overseas?
Well, the 482 visa pathway, for example, which we know is our primary feeder into the temporary work solution, it involves several key responsibilities that an employer has to fulfill, sponsorship obligations as we call them. So primarily they've got to adhere to and satisfy all Australian workplace laws, taxation laws. We know that's there as a given anyway. In addition to that, record maintaining, always complying, there's compliance requirements, always complying, and cooperating with the Department of Immigration if there's ever an inquiry. So there are some regulatory requirements when it comes to compliance. Some of this is obvious and quite easy to navigate, but of course there are times when employers do require the support of professionals such as ourselves. When it comes to complex monitoring, for example, they would often come to us to get that assistance to make sure that they are not in a grey area where there might be potential breach of a sponsorship obligation.
Great. I actually feel like I'm learning, to be honest. Isn't that great? How can come from?
So now you know where to come if you have 482 issues, right? That's it.
Exactly.
Next
right.
time MFM or APSO or anyone needs 482, you know where to come to.
Definitely. Wow. Because we do have some overseas talent, so...
Well, I've been doing this for more than 20 years, so you know where to go.
Definitely. All right. So are there any particular compliance issues or risks that you feel employers should be aware of?
Something that employers that access the 482 visa pathway under the Standard Business Sponsorship Program, for instance, should always be aware is that when it comes to pay rates, there is a misnomer that pay rates should be at the temporary skilled migration income threshold. As long as pay rates are at the TISMIT, then you're satisfying the criteria. That's not necessarily the case. The requirement is actually to take the market salary rate. So in some professions, the market salary rate can be significantly higher than the TISMIT. So employers are required to continuously keep up to date with changes in the market and make sure that they are remunerating their 482 visa holder staff at that correct market rate, not just at the TISMIT or not at a historic market rate. If there has been a lapse in time and there has been wage inflation, and some occupations it can impact quite significantly, it's really important that they keep abreast with those changes. That's just one of them, but I think it is an important one to remember.
So how do you help businesses integrate overseas recruitment into their long-term workforce strategy?
I wasn't listening.
Okay, that's fine. Is it time to eat? Like, how do you help businesses integrate overseas recruitment? Yeah, you're right.
I was thinking, I got distracted because you know the Sri Lankan shop over there?
Yeah.
That's my client. So suddenly it is. So I was just thinking if you want, we could just say hi and get that on camera.
That'd be good.
I was just thinking of that.
That is so smart.
Okay,
That's so fun. All right, how do you help?